All right, welcome in to Bleav in Chargers. It's a wrap. The 2025 NFL Draft is in the books. The next step, of course, the undrafted free agents, which for the most part have been put together for the Chargers, and then, of course, the rookies get on out here for that rookie mini camp. So it's moving low. We are
Yeah.
making our way toward the NFL season, which, of course, for these Chargers begins a week earlier than all but 30 other teams. Chargers-Lions Hall of Fame game July 31st. Seems like it'll be tomorrow, but today a big one, Low, as we get into the draft, and I'm sure you got to be excited. They certainly addressed a need. They addressed perhaps, I think it's easy to argue, potentially best player available, and those two things intersected at pick 22 with the selection of Omarion Hampton. I'll let you kind of take the floor here to get us started. Sort of your observations, your thoughts on the pick, your thoughts on Hampton, and somebody you know really well who coached him up. Natrone Means Business out there as his running backs coach at North Carolina.
Absolutely. I'm going to reach out to the big fella this week and see if we can get him on to talk a little bit about Omarion Hampton. I like the kid. You and I, we've been talking about him, saying, hey, he's a guy that can run in between tackles. When you watch this guy run, when you watch him, he can run between tackles. He doesn't go down with arm tackles. He runs high at times, but he knows when to drop his weight. He runs with some authority, and he's a game changer. This guy is going to get 10 to 20 carries a game. It's going to be interesting because you got a guy now in the stable. We talked about what they went out and said, okay, let's address the running back position. So you went out in free agency, and you got a good back. I think this guy has the potential to be a great back. You'll watch his breakaway speed. You'll watch his highlights. This is a guy, if he's even, this guy can leave you. He can run fast, run hard. I like what they did. It was the best, I think, at that particular pick for the Chargers. And the way they struggled in the run game last year, they not got one, but now you got a two-headed monster that can get it done.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it before the draft,
Yeah.
and that's availability and durability and how important that was this last year when it came to what Greg Roman had kind of sold us on and what the vision was. And we remember the quote, right? Can you imagine Justin Herbert with a dominant run game? And we bought in. It's like, well, yeah, this guy's done it as an offensive coordinator every stop he's made, whether it was in San Francisco, in Baltimore. No matter the back, if it was old Frank Gore, they were doing it. If it was Gus Edwards, undrafted free agent, they were doing it. If it was a high draft pick and J.K. Dobbins, they were doing it. So you wanted to believe it, and it made sense, and it never came to fruition. And I think a big part of that was Gus Edwards getting hurt in training camp, and J.K. Dobbins not being the same after he went down, early week 12. And so now you bring in a guy in Najee Harris that's never missed a game. That's, good, as Coach Harbaugh likes to say, Ted, there every day. And then you go out and get and Omarion Hampton, who at Nevada just put together two dominant seasons. He's got Drake May, who goes number 3 overall in the draft last year as his quarterback. And he runs for 1,500 at just about 6 a carry, 5.94 a carry with 12 touchdowns. Make that 15 touchdowns. And then Drake May's gone. And they don't really have that dominant quarterback this past year. And what does he do? Runs for 160 more yards, 1,660, still 5.91 a clip, and those same 15 touchdowns when he was the number one option in the offense, and every opponent had to game plan for him. Still his same dominant self. And I think and again, 13 games and 12 games. It's a guy that's Ted there every day.
What did he run his 40 in? Because when I watch his highlights,
4.44, I think, maybe 4.45.
And anytime you're down at 4.4, you can watch this guy when he's with DBs and secondary guys. They're not running him down. This guy, when he gets an open field, kind of like Latavius Murray, kind of the speed, but I think he's more durable and has more wiggle in between tackles. He runs legs close together, but I like his patience. When you watch him pick his way through the hole, and then he's got acceleration. He's got burst. I'm telling you, Money, I'm watching this. I watched a lot of tapes today. Been watching since they drafted him. Said, let me watch this guy. I Bleav it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to keep this guy off the field.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that type of a back. He is a big play back, and he runs hard behind his tackles. He can move the pow. This guy, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield too. I like what they got.
Yeah, he's got juice. I think that's the difference, right? And look, I'm not saying there were 15 teams. I don't know if there were 10 teams, but I do know there were teams that had him as the number one back. And I think Genty is a generational generational talent. I absolutely love him. I'm upset that he's in the division. You got to see him twice a year. I just think he's that level of a back. But the difference between Genty and Hampton is Hampton's a big back, and sometimes big backs don't move like Omarion Hampton. When you're coming in, I'll give you his combine measurables, 5'1", 1'6". So basically 6 foot, 221 pounds. And you're running a 4.4 640 with a 1.53 split. And you're broad jumping over 10 feet, almost 11 feet, 10-10, and your vert is 38. So you've got the explosive numbers, you've got the 4.4, and you got the 221 pounds, and you got a guy that didn't miss any games and seeks contact and wants to punish defensive backs if you're trying to tackle them. And I think that'll be interesting, though. You said it, right? This is someone who should probably push Najee for more carries and should probably be the guy that's out there, as a 3-down back with all that juice.
Yeah, it's going to be a good thing because I'm telling you what, Najee's going to have to play. And yeah, you brought him in to start, and he's going to get the nod. Yeah. But it's going to be that competition that it may be a game that, Najee carries at 25 because he's on a roll. But it's going to be a game of Mario that they say, look, we got to go with the young fella. These are going to be the type of backs that you have. There won't be a time when this guy doesn't carry the ball 5 to 10 times. He's that type of a back, and he has that type of a juice, and he can break a game open for you. So you just opened up your offense. We'll address the receivers later, but I'm just talking about what Harbaugh wants to do with these two type of backs that can punish you. That now the play action, because you look at how efficient this offense was. Didn't necessarily score a lot of points last year. I think that you're going to see a huge soar in offense because the running game is going to be more dominant and it's going to be more consistent. And that's what's going to make this team go.
Yeah. And what is Greg Roman's offense, right? It's A, run dominant, and B, play action. And teams just weren't really honoring play action last year. And there wasn't a lot of explosion downfield, and they were stacking the box and they were saying, go ahead, try to beat us. We're content to play one-on-one outside. And thankfully, Joe Ortiz and his staff hit a home run with Ladd McConkey, and then teams had to adjust and basically just started doubling Ladd halfway through this. I think back to that Falcons game, they had 2 guys on Ladd the entire game. And then I think to the playoff game when the Texans had 3 guys essentially on Ladd the entire game. So that takes us to the second-round pick. And Trey Harris, before we get to that, Bet Online, world's most trusted betting platform, #1 source for all your betting action. Get in there. Baseball season happening right now. Home stretch. We're in the playoffs for the NBA, the NHL. There are a lot more ways in on the action. Latest odds, news, scores. You can even do live in-game betting while the games are being played. If you like the Oilers, that's upsetting because you could bet on them to beat the Kings despite the fact they had a lead with freaking 28 seconds left in the game before blowing it in Game 4. It's the largest selection of odds. MLB, NHL, and UFC. BetOnline remains the #1 online source for all your sports wagering info. Just imagine that. There's 28 seconds left in the game, and you can go live and bet the Oilers to win. Just think about what kind of odds you'd be getting on that. In between games, head over to the BetOnline casino with the top Vegas-style games, poker, live casino. They got it all. BetOnline. The game starts here. Second-round pick. I didn't think he was going to be available there. We talked about guys that we really liked. Raiders must listen to this podcast. They took all my guys, driving me crazy. They got freaking Pegues, my guy that I told you to watch, the Wildcat freaking quarterback. They got Jack Besh, my dude from TCU, the physical receiver, that as a freshman led LSU in receiving ahead of freaking Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. They end up getting him out of
a good draft.
TCU. And they got the corner I talked about, Darian Porter. Freaking the Richard Sherman guy who flipped over from receiver, and he's got an 80-inch wingspan. Stupid Raiders. But Chargers, I did not think Trey Harris was going to be there, which is why I projected Besh to go to them and thought that could be the case. He ends up going 2 picks later to the Raiders after they selected Trey Harris. And Lo, I mean, you've been around it. You can speak to it. I'll pass it to you. 6'2", 205 pounds, over 6'2", 6'0", 205. He's got nearly 32-inch arms and almost 10-inch hands, and he's a guy that runs a 4.5, 4.40, and he is a true X receiver. He is a play him outside, and let's get after it. So he is a true X, and they did not have an X last year. They signed one in DJ Chark. He couldn't get on the field. He dealt with injuries all season long. Simi Fehoko was serviceable, did a heck of a job trying. Q is not an X. Has
No,
never been an X. He's
no.
a Z or a slot, and that's what Q is. This is an X. So maybe speak to how that helps balance out an offense when you have a guy
A true
that
X.
that's what he is.
He can run the X, but I like what you see in this guy. You know what he does well, Money? He catches the ball with his hands. You watch him snag the ball with his hands. I think the Chargers, all the receivers they selected, you watch these guys snagging balls with their in coverage, in transaction, in traffic. I like him. Can go vertical, can fight for the ball. They went out and got some dogs. This guy is going to be a player right away. He can get vertical. He can get deep. He can catch the long ball. But watch his adjustment to the ball. A bad ball, he turns his body and he can adjust to the ball. You got a true X that can lead. And you watch the just concentration. Hands, he puts his hands up at the right time, right set, and just snatches and pluck balls out of the sky. And he can come across the middle. He's a big guy, runs nice routes. I like what they got. I like it.
Yeah. I love what Joe Ortiz said in the presser after day 2. He's like, first round, they're showing all these Jackson Dart highlights, and every one of his big passes is going to Trey Harris. And I'm like, will you stop showing Jackson Dart highlights? All these people are going to be like, why is every big pass this guy's making going to this dude? And how do we get on some of that action? Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story for those that don't know. He ended up getting hurt. When he got hurt, he was leading the NCAA in receiving yards by about 150 yards when he went down. I said this before after day 2 when we did the wrap pod. There are some people out there that are peddling some, which I get. There's nothing wrong with it. The numbers are the numbers, but I think you got to remember this guy got hurt early into the SEC season. So they had basically played like their 4 cupcakes, how Lane Kiffin schedules it, and like 2.5 SEC games. And he's got these monster numbers. And so everyone's kind of drawing comparisons like, oh, look at his yards per route run. Look at his, yards per catch. Look at his yards after catch. Look at his routes run. And it's like, yeah, but if you have a full sample and you're playing a full SEC schedule, you'll see those numbers come down a little bit and you'll see them sort of gravitate a little bit closer to the norm. So I think that's a little misleading. But at the same time, he's still a really good receiver. Like I said, this last year, he ends up playing in 8 games, 1,030 yards, 7 touchdowns. So you're talking about a guy that was a big producer for Ole Miss and a favorite target of Jackson Dart. The year before, in 12 games, he goes 54 catches, 985 for 8 tugs. And look, last year is, yards per reception or 18.24. So that still speaks to the big play ability from him. Really good. And look, that went when he was on La Tech. He was all conference his freshman year. He was first team all conference USA and led the team in receiving. So this is someone who has been a number 1 everywhere he's gone. And he was the number 1 at La Tech. He was the number 1 at Ole Miss. And that's what you want in an X receiver. And just, then you can talk about, hey, not only what can this guy do, but now how does that balance out the room? Now we got an X. And now Ladd is going to really get to operate in the middle of the field. Now you can get a tight end to operate in the middle of it because this guy, even if this guy just clears it out, it's all it takes. A couple of those things to open it up, and now you got to pay attention to him.
Oh, you have to, and he's smooth, and he can beat press coverage. You watch him off the line; he can beat man coverage because he's physical. He's physical with his hands, and he runs a nice vertical route, and he can adjust to the ball. So you're going to have to be careful and play that safety over the top, and you just can't sit back because he knows how to adjust and get in front of guys. Watch the way he wall defenders off and keep putting his body in front of the ball so guys can't come through and get the ball. So I think it's a great pick for the Chargers. What did they do? They addressed a need. You said, we got a multi-million-dollar quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in this league. And last year, we got him sacked a lot. We tried to do play action, but no one feared play action. So what do? We addressed the running back position in free agency, and then we now got a boy dog in Hampton that can run downhill, that can leave you. So now you got play action. Now you got 2 receivers, McConkey in the middle that can hold the middle, and now you got a receiver that can go vertical. So what you did for Herbert, you went out and got weapons for this kid and guys that I think that can play at a high level.
Yeah, I think you hit it, Lo. It's a great jumping off point. So instead of just kind of going round by round, I'm going to jump to the 5th round so we can get to the other wide receiver because, it's clear that, that was sort of the approach. That I think it'd be crazy to say that wasn't the case, that Justin Herbert needed weapons. Justin Herbert needed juice. Justin Herbert was playing kind of with one hand tied behind his back last year. And in the first round, you get him a dominant 3-down back that can go. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Hold on. I didn't pull it up. Crud. I should have had it pulled up. I'm terribly sorry, everybody, but give me a moment to. Oh, no, here it is. I do have it. I thought I had it. This is one of my favorite stats on just going back to Omarion Hampton.
Right.
Here's one of my favorite stats, right? So check this out. Here is a guy who had last year, right? When you go through, that's Gadsden. Sorry. Hold on.
Well, while you're looking for that, if you give this Omarion Hampton some lanes, the way the Chargers like to run block and go 12 personnel, now you're talking about a guy that can get downhill one and then cut. You're going to see some holes, because if you get those guys and you go 12 and you spread out the defense and you have to make them play every blade of grass, this guy is strong enough. He's going to run through arm tackles. And if you stick your head a little too far over, he's going to put his foot in the ground and get north and run through arm tackles. You're not going to just arm tackle this guy. And once he gets out in the secondary, you watch this guy. He can make secondary guys miss. He can run you over. He can run through you and run around you. So I think you got a big-time threat, especially when you're in 12 personnel and wanting to do 12 and a lot of zone runs.
Yeah, and it's a guy who had explosive runs. That's what I was getting at, because this ties in before we move on from Trey Harris, right? So Hampton, going through his game logs, he's got a 19, a 37, a 15, a 49, a 47, a 14. Like, this guy's, he breaks it off. And that was when everybody was stacking the box to stop him, because there was no Drake May and there were so few threats downfield. If I go back to, let's see what it looked like in 2023 now. And his longs that year were, here you go. I mean, every game in a row, 17, 19, 13, 16, 19, 29, 13, bang, 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 bang. This guy is just busting out explosive runs. Now, imagine that. And I'm going to go to Trey Harris, who we were just talking about, right? The true X receiver. Mm-hmm. And he is, let me see, hold on. Because that was 23. I want to go to 24. Sorry, everybody. My great apologies. I don't prep well, because I prep and then we don't talk about things that I think we're going to talk about, and that's how this happens. So I'm sorry as I'm going through this, but I did. But I'm going to illustrate a point. I promise.
Right.
And I believe it will be worthwhile.
I know. Well, just because it's the big play. You're talking about guys that you went and got. You just went over the running back. Those big plays, 20, 40, 30 yards in one game. Usually guys don't have 2 and 3 runs for over 20 yards in a game. This guy has done it. Now you're talking about a receiver that you went out and a true X. You watch the big play potential that this guy brings, and he can catch a 5-yard out or slant and take it to the house. The jump ball, he's going to win jump ball. So he's a big play receiver as well.
Here's exactly. And I was listening to everything. Big play receiver as well is right. Here's Trey Harris's longs. Ready for this?
Yeah.
As an X receiver, in his game log, 61, 26, 19, 70, 48, 57, 47, 43. Those are his longs. And those last 4 I just read, Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, Florida. Those are all in the SEC. Explosive. This team had no explosion last year. Nothing. Right. And now your first 2 picks are guys that are explosive. And then that brings us to the round 5 pick, KLS, KeAndre Lambert-Smith, out of Auburn.
Yeah.
He is a dude that ran a 4.37 40. So they went out and got speed. Now, what good is speed if you can't catch? Right. But he catches. He's got good hands. He's digging balls out off the ground. He's a guy that locates, makes adjustments, makes catches. And now you're dropping that in there where he can play the Z. He can play the slot. If you want to move Lad, we saw Lad play outside enough. So now maybe you want to put him in the slot. You want to put Lad outside with Trey Harris. And now you got some freaking you got Lad, who's a 4.3 guy. And now you got Lambert-Smith, who's a 4.3 guy out there, along with a legitimate X receiver on the outside.
Yeah, and I like what Lambert. I was watching the highlights just on this Lambert-Smith. You see the guy, how physical he is. for a little guy. He's got the juice, like you said. He's going to fight and contest for the ball. He can make guys miss in space. You went out and you got some juice for Herbert. You got guys now that you're going to have to play off. You can't, and it's going to be hard to stack the box. I don't think you can put 8, 9 guys in the box with the receivers. The receivers they got, if they can play, especially the way Ladd early is going to get that double until these guys show them that they belong in the league. But what we've seen on tape, and if this can translate to the pros, the way these guys play, just the physicality, the way that what I've seen, just watching these receivers play and watching them how they're plucking the ball, not letting a lot of the balls get into their body. I like that because they can catch it and still stay on the move and still be able to separate and break arm tackles. So I think you went out and got guys, not only that can catch the ball, but they play physical.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. They have a type. They have a type.
Yeah.
Physical, big, tends to be big is what they like in all the positions they draft. Joe Alt, think about how big he is. I know Ladd's a little different, but Ladd he plays big, plays tough. He was the go-to receiver at Georgia with all that talent on that team, and yet in those gotta-have-it downs, Ladd was the guy they went to. So even though he's not a tall, big, fit guy, he plays that way. And I think that's certainly something that this team does, that's sort of what they're into. So that's kind of the pass catchers. And then we got to finish up with, I don't know if you ever played with, did you play with Aronde? Were you in the league when Aronde Gadsden was in the league? Or was he a little bit after you?
I'm not sure. I know I played with Mickens' son.
Okay.
Me and Mick
with
played
Ray
together. Yeah, but I thought we got a tie. What about the Gas? Yeah, I didn't play with
Gadsden.
his dad. Yeah, Gadsden. I did. I don't think I did. I might.
He was on the Dolphins. It wouldn't be hard for me to look it up.
You know what? I'm bad with names, money. Don't put me on the spot. But here's a guy that you watch this guy, 6'5", whatever. He's big, tall, and long. And you watch this tight end. He is going to dismantle linebackers. He runs smooth. You see the breakaway speed that he has. Safeties, you saw safeties can't stay with him. He wins the jump ball. You went out now. You can spread. You get in 2 minutes. You can put this tight end. Sometimes they take the tight end off the field. He is one of those guys. We talked about we needed a pass catching tight end. And this guy he's an athlete. He's an athlete. He can make some hell of plays.
To me, it's basically, I wasn't happy that they let Stone Smart go. This is the Stone Smart replacement. This is your athlete. This is your seam stretcher.
Yeah.
This is your guy and he's just a gnarly, what am I trying to say? He's a red zone target. Jeez. It's escaping my mind. He's a great red zone target. So it's again, look, there were tight ends that I loved. We talked about them on here. They went early. You can't draft everybody. Fannin went a lot. Like I said, I knew he was going to go high. He ended up going a lot higher than people had projected. They were talking 4th round. He goes at the very, I think, top of the 3rd round, like the 1st or 2nd pick in the top of the 3rd round. But I'm glad they went out and got an athletic tight end. Get a guy that's got some freaking juice out there. So 6'4", 241, 4.65 40. Massive 83.5-inch wingspan, and he just sucks everything in. Really good in the red zone. Like I said, the giant catch radius. I'm just going through Lance's bio right now. Right. Adjust a route, scramble open. Sounds a lot like Hunter Henry when Justin was a rookie. Catches tough, contested catches. So there you go. Like that's what I think that's the best way I can describe it. This is sort of the Stone Smart of the tight end room.
Oh, without a doubt. And he's kind of receiver. He's a tight end / receiver. You watch the way that he moves and how he runs routes and how he gets vertical. He's running by linebackers. Safeties are draping off of him, but he still can go up and make the catch. And you see he's got good speed. He can break away. He runs good routes. He's hard to, grab onto off the line. When he gets the ball, he's going to be tough for blocking. He's going to have to grow into that. We understand that. He's going to have to work on that. But who hasn't had to do that for tight ends? But he's a guy that you can put out in space. He plays big when the ball's in his hands. He does not necessarily, I'm not saying he's a great blocker, but when the ball's in his hands or when he's out running a route, he plays like a big tight end and he runs like a receiver. So when you see how this guy is going to be able to stretch the field for you to go vertical, you're going to have help. You can't put a linebacker. You're going to have to put the safety over. Now choose your weapons. I'm telling you, you're not going to be able, if these guys develop and you know what OTA is going to look like in training camp and these guys develop, you can't sit there and double McConkey because of the fact you got guys that can stretch the field, that can run, and also play physical.
Yeah, and look, the thing with Gadsden is this is what the Tyler Conklin signing did. You know, you didn't have to reach. You're like, hey, man, we're good. We're good this year with Conklin. He's plenty good. You know, he's a really good pass-catching tight end. So you're fine. Obviously, we know what you got in Will Dissly and Tucker Fisk at the position. You're great with blocking tight end. We said Will had the best season of his career receiving the football. And look, it's Greg Roman, man. Greg Roman knows how to call offense for tight ends. Just look at what happened to Vernon Davis's career. When Harbaugh and Roman showed up in San Francisco, he turned into an all-pro, while prior to that being a total bust, getting drafted high in the first round. And then they go to Baltimore, and he basically turns every tight end he coaches into a Pro Bowler. So, and last year, with what he had to work with, he basically made Will Dissly, had put up the best receiving numbers of his career. So now you give him a Tyler Conklin, who's been a 50-catch, 500-yard, 5-touchdown guy his whole career, with Herbert, with Roman, and then you drop in. They just had, Evan Ingram. They weren't able to land that plane. He ends up going to Denver. But that's what Evan Ingram is. He's just he's a giant slot, and that's okay.
Right.
Those are hard. You got a game plan for those guys too. Not every guy has to be an ass kicker in the blocking game. Some of them can be these big slots or these athletic tight ends and still do great things and still be worthy of that TE next to their name.
Right. And he doesn't have to. Like you said, you went out and you still have the Will Dissly. You have the guys that still can block. And now you went out and you said, look, let's match Denver. Denver went up beating us and getting this other guy. Let's get a guy that's comparable. Let's get a guy that plays tight end, and we can detach him from the line and now pick your poison. He's too fast for linebackers and he's too physical for safeties. So you said, let's match up. So I think the Chargers look at what Denver, I think, they got the edge in defense. You think about what they went out in free agency and what they drafted. I think Denver had a hell of a draft, and I think they addressed their defense. And what did the Chargers say? Hey, look, if they're going to get better on defense, we got to get better on offense. We look at what hurt the Chargers last year. A lot of these games, it was offense. Left the defense out on the field a little too long and wasn't able to score because they weren't able to run the ball. And now you went out and said, let's address all these issues: receivers, running backs, tight ends. So I thought this was a good draft offensively for the Chargers.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just, and like I said, there's a theme to all four of those guys: explosive, athletic. Their traits fit a need, right?
Yes.
They needed a big, explosive back. That's what they needed. They got it. They needed an X, a dedicated X. That's what they got in Trey Harris. They needed speed. Take the top off of it, speed. That's what they get in KeAndre Lambert-Smith. And they needed an athletic tight end. They got their blocking tight ends. Tucker Fisk and Will Dissly are here. Let's go get that athlete. And Tyler Conklin is here. Let's go get that gnarly athlete. So that's their offensive side. Defense, let's focus, before we go back to the offensive side with their offensive tackle that they drafted. Jamaree Caldwell, one of my favorite guys. Their third-round pick, the D tackle out of Oregon, came from Houston. He was playing a lot more 3. And it was just kind of a little bit more of a go-get-him kind of upfield defensive tackle, pass rushing tackle. When he gets to Oregon, he's playing a lot of nose, and he's like the way I described it after day 2 was, I said he's Poona Ford. Like, the guy's Poona Ford. That's basically what he is. He's going to eat up double teams. He plays the run really well, and when you need him to get after it, he can get after it. And that's really what Poona was. And Mike Elston knows how to coach those guys.
And I think he's a little faster than Poona. I watched him big 90 run sideline to sideline. I see him running down screens, watching a little bubble screen. This guy's out of the flat.
He chased the back down.
Chasing down running backs and watching him on the double teams, money like you're saying. Here's a guy that hits with his head, and then moves here, he gets his hat and outside and keeps his outside shoulder free, and knowing where his linebackers at. Funnel them back in. I'm watching this guy turn runs back in and keeping the outside shoulder free and letting other guys make tackles. So it's the other things that people don't watch. It's like, okay, he didn't make the tackle, but what did he do? He held the point. So he didn't create a new line of scrimmage. Actually, he shoved the guy, hit, and lifted him up. So now he created a new line of scrimmage. Now he kept his outside shoulder free. So now forced the back to step inside where all of his help is. And even though he doesn't make the play, he disrupts a lot of plays. I like what they did inside. They lost Poonham 4. They needed to address that. And I think this young guy, hopefully, he looked great in college. I know when you play in NFL, these guys are a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, especially when it comes to interior linemen. But hey, look, what I've seen on tape, this big fella can move and he can run, and he's gonna be a space eater.
Yeah, it was interesting because when you went through all the sort of media scouts and where they had him ranked, it was a little bit lower, like in terms of that portion of it. Everyone's like, "Ooh, that's a little bit of a reach." Jamaree Caldwell, when so and so was here and this guy was, and then after it happened, chatting with a couple people, they were like, "This guy was a coach's guy." He goes, "This was just one of those dudes that they said, I talked to multiple D-line guys, and the name that kept coming up was Jamaree Caldwell." So, maybe it's not as flashy because he doesn't have the sack numbers, doesn't have the, of Derek Carmen, doesn't have the wow flashes of Walter Nolan, doesn't have the 300, just the way Kenneth Grant is built and what a mutant he had. Like, they're like, but but they said multiple D-line coaches they talked to, Caldwell was their guy. They're like, man, that dude, Derek Carmen ain't having the year he's having in Oregon without this guy. And I will say, of all the Zoom calls that we did for each pick after, this was my favorite guy. Awesome personality, just a great personality. South Carolina kid, talking about, how he was a 0-star. He went to a JC, thought about quitting football during COVID, had to help his mom. They were trying to figure out a way to make money. His mom, he said, cooks amazing Southern food. So they start doing food out of their kitchen because all the restaurants were closed, and he's helping her do that.
Wow.
Made him realize how much he missed football, went back to a JC to get back into it, and then ends up getting the call from Houston, dominates at Houston, and had wanted to play at a Power 5, and said he specifically goes, I don't know why, but I wanted to play in the Big Ten. He goes, that's just what I wanted to do. And Oregon called, and I went up there, and they made him put on a bunch of weight. And they said, hey, we know you had 8.5 sacks last year, but that's not what you're doing here. We want you to eat up these double teams. And he's like, whatever you need, man. Because I said, I asked him, I was like, what weight do you want to play at? He goes, whatever they want me to play at. I don't care.
Wow. And they say a hungry dog hunts best. And here's a guy, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that got away from football, like you said, helped his mom. Tough times happened, COVID, starting to get in the kitchen, cooking it up and saying, oh my goodness, do I really want this? And sometimes this is that reality where you say, you know what? Hey, I can be a grown man playing a kid's game, getting a king's ransom. And here's a guy that said, you know what? I'm going to go back to JC. I'm going to clock back in, and I'm going to go work. And look what happened, and look how it paid off. You watch this guy plays with attitude. You watch him hustle, the effort. I like the big fella. I like what he's going to hopefully love to see this guy have some success like he had in the college level on the pros. It's tough, like I said, in the interior. But hey, this is a guy, what I've seen, I think this guy is going to make that transition.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a starter, Lo. I think this guy's going to end up being a starter. And now you're talking, he's got burst.
Yeah.
You can see it, man. He's got them loose ankles. He's got all that weight up top, man, but he got them skinny little ankles, he can move around in there now.
He had twinkle toes.
I think he's going to end up being a starter. He's almost 25. He's almost 25. And so, like I said, because of the COVID thing and the JC thing and all that. So that's it was funny just to kind of put a button on it to tell the, behind the scenes stuff that we were getting on the Zoom call. I think it was Tuke who covers the Chargers for LA Times. She asked him, what kind of food? And he's like, oh, Southern food. He goes, as a matter of fact, she's cooking some right now and I can smell it. So I would like to get back down there if you don't mind. I was like, go on, Jamaree, get out here, man.
Go on, man.
No, go get that food, big man. Keep that weight on. We want you at 3:30. Keep it going. I really enjoyed him. And then, in the fourth round, they ended up getting Kyle Kennard. All he did was win. Is SEC pretty good conference, though?
Yeah, you think? Yeah. SEC is tough. Very tough.
SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Kyle Kennard. And I'll tell you, the one thing that was interesting is when they showed his tape, you couldn't help but notice after he got drafted, who's he beating up? Guy that went number 4 overall, Will Compton at LSU. got him a couple times, man. And Will was as clean a prospect as there was at left tackle. That's why he went number 4 overall. And there were a couple shots at Kyle getting the best of him, man, and getting to the quarterback and dropping Nussmeier.
And he can dip. When you watch Cal dip and get skinny and arm over, he's got quick explosives off the ball. You can see this guy at times, even with the bull. You watch him the swim move that he makes, but you watch him just dip a shoulder and get skinny and beat guys around the corner. He's really good getting his hips out and getting around the corner. I watch this guy make a hell of a play and constantly getting up and do his little dance and rock it from side to side. You're like, go ahead with your bad self. This young man, I'm telling you, athletically, he can play. This guy can get after it. He plays with speed. And you know what? And that's what people, when that's a position. That's why I talked about the big man. It's kind of tough in the trenches, but he's going to have success. And you think he's going to be a starter, and I think that he's got a good chance. But when you're a speed guy and when you're playing defensive end, size is not everything. It's about athletic ability and its get off and its technique and its attention to details. Javon Curse, the freak. You remember we're playing with Tennessee Titans. Yeah. Guy had 17 sacks his rookie year, only 250 pounds because his get off and how Gumby and how loose. And you watch this Cal kid, the way that he can lean, the way he gets off the ball. That is everything. So this guy, he's going to come in there and he's going to make some plays on third down. When you want to go NASCAR and you get those guys in there, you want to throw Cleo in that mix and say, let's go turn these. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be on the field because he has that.
Yeah, I think you're talking about a DPR, right? And, and you know how the fact that Thule can kick inside, you can throw him out there, like you said, on designated pass downs, and he can be your designated pass rusher. You can kick Thule inside for those and just cut him loose. And that's what he is right now. Because that is, why did he last until the 4th round? Because he got pushed around a little bit. Because there wasn't, the strength is not, he's not setting the edge.
No.
He's getting bullied a little bit. It's see quarterback, go get quarterback. And so, when you're not a full service guy, you're going to slide a little bit. And that's fine.
Right.
And what a place to go when you get to sit in a room with a guy who's as good at setting the edge as anyone in the NFL and Khalil Mack. And you get to kind of spend a year with him and, get with Ben Herbert, maybe build on that frame a little bit because he's plenty tall and plenty long.
Sure.
I mean, 6'4", 254. So he's got the arms, 81.5-inch wingspan.
Oh, yeah.
So 34-inch arms. So he's got the edge arms.
Right.
So like you said, super bendy. That was just kind of the one issue is got pushed around a little bit, trouble setting the edge. Yeah. A little light in the ass.
Yeah.
But still, 4th round, take it. Guy that had 11.5 sacks in the SEC,
Absolutely.
beat up on Will Compton, done. We'll kind of wrap this up with the 6 and the 2 7s here. What can I tell you about Taylor? I don't know. I'll be honest. Wasn't really a tackle that was on my radar much low, but kind of trying to dig up as much as I could. Looks like a pretty physical tackle. Guy who played tackle. Yeah. So I don't know how much of him you watched.
I watched a little bit. He could play both sides. I seen him move around a little bit. But watching, he wants to engage. Now, when you want him to run block and get downhill and he's really good with double teams. He wants on pass rush. He wants to grab the guys and pull them into him. Didn't have great legs. Don't have great feet.
Right.
I've seen at times get a little. You can cross over. So he's going. You watch that practice. He's going to get beat with speed. But if he can get those hands on you, if you want him to run block, ace block and down block, I think he's really good. He's physical, like you said. He wants to maul you. He's going to stay on guys. I think in the pass game, it's just the feet. He's got to work on the footwork. I just saw a little of the feet kind of get a little close together and can get crossed up at times. But the guy's physical, and that's what Harbaugh wants. You know what they're going to do. You can make this guy better. It's not, you don't ask this guy to walk in and start. You got all-world tackles. So you got a guy that, hey, look, he can be a swing. He can be a guy that come in and back up. So all you want to do is have this guy develop. So that's what you got in him.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at kind of the review of him, and the one thing that jumps out is, the arm. It's under 33-inch arm, and that's why, and we know what the Chargers like. They wanted Trey to be a guard. We like it.
Yeah.
Let's and look at Becton. They got a 6'7" guard and a 6'9" tackle. So the fact that this guy's clocking in at 6'6", they're like, great, kick into guard, dude. You got 32 and 3/4-inch arms, no problem. Be all physical, be a guard, stand next to Slater. Exactly, be a mauler. So look, 6th round, it's project. Jamaree was a 6th rounder. Guy ended up playing 15 games at left tackle, serviceable. So it's certainly not the first time they've done that. Ended up starting just 6 games, a knee issue, but he was the team captain, so that's all good stuff.
It's a guy
right
too.
there.
It's a guy too, money that you know what you can do. Here's a guy that may get released. You can put him on practice squad. Here's a guy that you know that's going to be developing. You know, 7th round. And it's going to be 7th and 6th. Some certain guys, you know, hey, look, they're going to be there. You no need to play them. No need to rush them. You need bodies. And here's a guy that we know that works. And that's why Harbaugh's saying, look, we're going to draft you because we know you're a hard worker. We know he's physical. That's the kind of guys that Harbaugh and this organization is going to draft, guys that work hard, guys that are physical, and they can get after, and he fits the mold.
Yeah, and then we have the 2 7th rounders, 2 safeties. And what do we talk about? Someone asked the question of, hey, what are they going to do in the 7th round? And we said, look, these late round picks, this is for Coach Ficken.
Yeah.
These are special teamers,
teams.
Man. And that's kind of what we're seeing is these 7th round picks were the special teamers. Traquez Bridges and RJ Mickens. You got 2 corner/safeties, DBs, and they're both very similar, right? They're both big guys, physical guys, played some corner, played some safety, played some nickel, played some outside, and they're going to be big special teams guys.
Huge special team guy. I played with Ray Mickens. With me and him played together. Dad's tough. Dad a lot shorter than him, but just a physical guy. You're going to watch these guys. They're going to be on kickoff. They're going to be on kickoff return. They know they're going to have to make their hay on special teams and be service guys. And that's what those are the type of guys that are glue of your team. You need good serviceable guys that can go down and cover kicks, guys that can play special teams, guys that can go out there that you know that's going to be good practice guys too. These are the type of guys that at practice, they're going to go out there. They know that they're fighting to keep a job. They're going to go out there and challenge the ones. They're going to go out there and challenge to say, look, I'm trying to stick and stay. When I played in league, got a 4th round, they put me against the Dome Patrol and Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills, and all those guys. I'm 4th round, 87 pick. I'm thinking I'm getting cut. So, I'm biting my ass off saying, okay, I'm at practice. I'm trying to run over guys. I'm practicing like it's a football game. And that's how I made the team. I played special teams, kickoff return, punt team, punt return, up back. But I played and I said, hey, I'm at practice challenging these guys because I wanted to make a squad. And that's what you got. These 7th round guys and these 6th round guys that you're talking about, these are those guys that are going to say, look, they'll run through a wall. They're going to go fight because they just hope to make a team.
Yeah. And remember, they had 2 7th rounders last year. One guy that didn't make the team, Nico Collins, the receiver out of Michigan, and one guy that made the team initially and then wasn't on the team and never really got any reps. And that's Brennan Rice. So you got to fight and you got to play special teams. That's like you said, you hit it on the head low. These are dudes that if they want to be part of the 53, and I do think it's, safety was an interesting one. We didn't talk about it a lot, but the fact that Aloi's deal is up after this year, they're going to need, they need to find a safety. And to get Mickens, and both of these guys are high pedigree guys, right? Mickens at Clemson, who's just a heat-seeking missile, blowing up plays all over the place, incredibly physical. And here's a 6-year player in Bridges, in Traquez Bridges, who was, did I say Will Compton? I've been doing that so much. Will Campbell, the tackle out of
Straight out of Compton, baby.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know why I keep doing that. Yes, Will Campbell was the tackle out of LSU that Kyle Kennard was beaten up on. So you got 5 years at Oregon, and then the last year at Florida, where he ends up with 2 forced fumbles, 2 picks, 8 passes defensed. So, and 70 tackles, in his first time in a full, as kind of like a full-time start. Actually, he was full-time starter in 2022, it looks like. But here's your last pick. That's Ryan Ficken. They got to help him out, man. They let all his guys go. Simi Fehoko, Nick Neiman, 2. I don't think Chris Rump's going to probably be back. So you got 3 guys that were big-time special teams performers that are all somewhere else, and you got to be able to replenish that. It's the Dean Leonards, the Jot, Taylors, where maybe you're not think about them less as a corner and more as a special teams player and what you lose when they're not out there on special teams, and that's sort of what I think about with RJ and Traquez. So I like it, Lo. I like the class. I think they filled needs. The one that you could probably say, would have liked to have seen him draft a guard just to be a little safe. But I think it probably speaks to, sort of their thoughts on Zion and and center
between center and guard.
Those 3 that Andre James and Bradley Bozeman and Zion are going to be good enough. The addition of Mekhi Becton is going to help out, and that's how you settle it. And there's always a possibility that someone else becomes available. So, that's That's because, here we go. I just wanted to get Mickens in there, so we give him his time. 6 foot, 200, ran a 4.49 40, so it's a dude with some juice. And, had, let's see, what did he do this last year at Clemson? 75 tackles, 9 passes defense, 2 picks, 6 tackles for loss. So there you go.
Yeah, he's a ball finder. He'll put his nose in there. Guy's not afraid. I think they did great. It's going to be interesting to see because it was a good draft. I think the AFC West had a good draft. I thought the Raiders did good. You look at Denver, everyone got better. I don't know if necessarily Kansas City made that big of a leap, but I think that you talk about the 3 teams. The Raiders, great draft. Denver, great draft. The Chargers, great draft. So it's just going to be interesting just to see because now all these teams, they got Raiders got better at quarterback, of course, with Geno. Now it's going to see who can develop. And we know one thing, Harbaugh and this staff, they got teachers. He wants good. And you've seen what their rookies were able to do last year. I don't expect anything less than the Chargers this year.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs draft too. Josh Simmons, injured. If he wasn't injured, probably could have been a lot higher as far as the tackles were concerned. Got one of my favorite D tackles in Omar Norman Lott, a guy who did not play any rundowns at Tennessee, just passing down from the interior. They jumped the Chargers to get Noah Williams. I thought he was going to be their pick in the 3rd round. I thought they had a real good chance to take him. They jump him. They jump the Chargers to get 1 pick ahead of them and take Noah Williams, the corner. And then they get a really good receiver who slid at Utah State in Jalen Royals. And then they get your guy in the 7th, Brashard Smith. At SMU, they went out and got him. So, like you said, every team in the AFC West ended up having a really good draft class, and it's just going to be great competition, man.
It really is. It really is. I can't wait to get down there and watch some of these guys get after it.
Did you ever play the Dolphins between 98 and 03?
Yes, I had to.
So there you go. You played against Gadsden, against Rondé's dad. So
absolutely.
There you go, man. Fun stuff. So that's it, everybody. Just kind of going through the picks. Really excited about the draft. I think once we kind of get these rookies in there and we get through all of the undrafted free agents and get a look at them and can dig into them a little bit and kind of talk about who's popping out there on the field, what some coaches are saying, what the scouts are saying, we'll be able to get a little bit more to you as we get a little closer and can dig in deeper. But a lot of fun, Lo.
Yeah, it is, man. I can't wait, man. I know you're going to be out there watching it, boy. So you always give me some great updates. Can't wait.
I know what you're going to be. Doing shopping for luggage for your trip to Brazil. That's what you're going to be doing, Lo.
Absolutely, baby. You know I'll be there in Brazil, baby. You guys better go. You better help me get those tickets.
Right.
Go to boatsinbrazil.com. It's simple. Boats in Brazil. Airfare, hotel, to and from the airport. Money, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't got to worry about the airfare. You don't got to worry about game tickets. They got you covered. Tailgates, dinners. Just go to boatsinbrazil.com and sign up today.
That's right. And they also got Low Neal.
That's
so there you go. Appreciate it, everybody. We'll be back again next week. Bleav in Chargers post-draft edition on a Monday, no less. There you go. You're welcome. Little special edition for you.
Cheers. Boat up.